The power companies are transparent enough to say that they have themselves covered because we get these little snippets that they'll put out in black and white for us to say, hey, this is going to happen.
5 years ago, 7 years ago, when we first started up, no one really needed solar.
It was a luxury.
It was a want.
When you have a power bill higher than your mortgage, it's just not feasible for living.
Everybody has a threshold.
That's a great way of putting it. Everyone's got a breaking point.
So please, if you're out there listening, don't wait until you need solar. Just be curious. And at the end of the day, you're going solar whether you like it or not. Welcome to the 23rd episode of the Solar Power Hour, first episode of 2026. And we are very excited for the year to come. There's a lot of changes that have happened over the last few months, but we're ready to rock and roll. And we have quite a bit to talk to you about today.
Welcome everyone. Again, big 2-3. So it does not stop. The world keeps on turning, and here we are in 2026. So a lot of things we're leaving behind, a lot of things to embrace moving forward. Some things will not change, which again, that's kind of nice, is the consistency of our company, and the writing on the wall is always there. So again, thank you for tuning in. Again, got a good list of things to keep you updated on, and some things in speculation, just to kind of, like I said, our job here is to always be as up to date and keep you guys as informed as possible, or let you know what's on our radar, and just let you kind of get a peep in the future of what the industry looks like. So again, thanks for tuning in, but go ahead and kind of get cracking on what we've got to share with you guys today.
Absolutely. We have a new incentive for the next month. We're going to talk about the bill that just got passed recently that's gotten a lot of press. The idea with the battery storage and what's the bill's name again?
The one from Pritzker?
Yeah.
So the down here, my other notes, I got the acronym written down, but then I got it written down as well. The CRGA, the Clean and Reliable and Affordability Act, the Clean and Reliable Grid Affordability Act.
So we're going to be touching on that in some detail. And again, some of it's speculation because we haven't seen what's actually came out about it. We're going to talk about the tax credit going away and what that looks like for the years to come. And then, a couple other things that we're going to be touching on. But first and foremost, I'd like to, shout out to our clients who are the best people in the world and refer people constantly. And as a sign of appreciation or to show appreciation for you, we're actually doing a $750 referral bonus. And you don't necessarily need to be a client of ours to refer somebody over, but if you refer someone over to us before February 16th, you actually get $750 for referral bonus instead of $500. So good way to get a little extra cash in your pocket for the beginning of the year, help somebody out with something they may need, or, at the end of the day, everybody needs solar.
Post-holiday spending, it's a good way to replenish the accounts. But again, it's always, good business naturally breeds good business. And guys, I mean, as one of the main reps that's in people's homes day after day, I will say that that's, truly where word of mouth comes into play. And being obviously we're in a city of Peoria, but there is a small enough community here that everyone knows everyone, or you're one person away from knowing everyone. And so, good word of mouth is, everything to us. And so it does mean a lot. And I do know that is, just a main standpoint of where a lot of our business comes from. So again, I will give a lot of appreciation to all the referrals that we've been given in the past, but also just, future appreciation for all the ones in the future. But please do take advantage of that. There's no limit to that. Mom, if you're listening, I know that she's, probably sent 8 or 9 people over at this point that we've had the opportunity to help move forward with their projects. And so again, you'd be surprised how many people are willing to hear about this, or how many people could benefit from the information. And that's really one of the biggest things, guys, is please don't discount people or disqualify people that you might think may be a good benefit from, or might be able to benefit from this.
Right.
And that's really I kind of say it not in a disheartening manner, but part of our job is to disqualify people. But our feelings are never going to be hurt. If people own their home and they own their roof, that's 90% of the battle right there. And so again, you'd be surprised. And that's the whole idea with this ever-changing industry. You can never be, too informed. And so whether they looked into it a couple of years ago and, might have been the wrong time, wrong company, something just might not have clicked at that point. Everyone's always got other expenses and things going on. And so we're nothing but understanding, but that does not mean that it can't make just as much sense or more sense nowadays. And so again, please take advantage. Don't need to beat a dead horse here, but with that referral bonus, I mean, obviously, like I said, that's fun to take advantage of. And I've never had anyone upset with me for dropping off, $1,000, $1,500 check to them for sending some referrals my way. And, people typically sign up with me. So you'll get some referrals.
Yeah. And Austin said he's going to match that.
If you send them to me, I'll gladly match it. I'll make you a deal. Hey, you know what? For our listeners, I'll make that really fun. So check that out. So, I mean, obviously for the people that do tune in and tune out, I mean, we make a fun little deal. If your referral comes to me as well, I'll throw an extra $750 on there, but you got to find me.
$1,500 referral?
$1,500 referral.
You're crazy, man.
Hey, I'd be it's gonna be crazy if no one takes advantage of it, I guess, while listening to it. So, the ball's not in our side of the court, but we're just out here throwing the holiday spirit around still.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. If you send a referral, mention the podcast, send it directly to all of us, and it'll match that $750. So I don't know when the last time you made $1,500 on a phone call was, but it might be.
If you've got that credit card like that's just been sitting there like egging you on, and you're like, man, we just need to get this like 3 grand paid off or whatever. Like, oh man, our kitchen renovation, like anything that you've been wanting to do, that like that trip that you've wanted, that's just been a stupid amount. Which apparently it cost less money to go to Disney Sea in Tokyo, the entire vacation to travel there and back, as opposed to going to the Disney in America.
I
So
believe that.
that's just again. So I know that everything is crazy expensive right now. So again, if we can help you with that cost, again, this is just kind of fun to do. This was kind of the spur of the moment, but
I was just joking, but Austin took it up on it, so somebody better take him
that's
up
what
on
I'm
it.
saying. Again, if someone doesn't take advantage of it, I mean, that's not. I mean, we can only do so much here, but I mean, I'd have a little bit of fun with it. But we'll get out of the referral side of things. But point is that we're still rocking and rolling. We've got a lot of, again, with our install teams. I will, for everyone listening that got installed prior to last year, I feel like maybe this can kind of be a good way to show some appreciation to our crews, but then also kind of talk about the tax credit and just the change going into the new year and what changed from last year.
Absolutely. Well, before we get into all that, I do want to touch on the ambassador program we
Oh,
rolled out.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So super exciting. We're having our first webinar for our ambassadors. We have 5 ambassadors signed up. If you're a current client of ours out there and you're looking for a way to get more involved or further your education with solar and be able to communicate that to your fellow peers, we're more than happy to get you enrolled in the ambassador program. We do a bio, we do an interview. It'll be posted on the website so people can see you, see your story, see why Sun Collectors matters to you. But super excited to be rolling this program out. We're going to do our first webinar this month just to talk about all the changes, and that way they're not having to listen to every one of our podcasts. But yeah, there's some cool perks. There's a stepping stool, and there'll be bonuses throughout the year for people that are ambassadors. But so excited, and honestly, I feel like most of our clients are ambassadors to some
Right.
degree. It's just the people, excuse me, the people that really, really want to get out there and do a little bit more. And we're happy to help facilitate in any way we can.
Yep. So shout out to the ambassadors. It's cool to see, just as the company continues to grow and prosper, but just know that we've got people that we've helped out that are willing to, again, I feel like you're right. Most of our, people that we've already signed up or helped out, they're organically ambassadors. Their system is kind of an ambassador for itself because it's out there, it's working every day. Your app is an ambassador because it actually tracks your production and shows, what you're doing or what you're able to save with your battery. And so, it's kind of cool how the systems, do reflect or show the work themselves. But again, huge shout out to the people in the community that have believed in us and are, able to be a vessel that we're able to speak through.
Absolutely. And, again, beating a dead horse, but on the referral side. So while we're running this, and it is January 2026 to February 16th of 2026.
So January 16th to February 16th.
Right. So just make sure that everybody's watching this, watching this a month later, whatever. But on the referral side, so one of the easiest ways you can get a referral is, let's say you have a power outage in your neighborhood and your battery's working, and you could take a screenshot of the battery working, or you take a picture of your house with the lights on, whatever that may be, and post it on social media. Wonderful way. If you have solar installed and you have a power bill that comes back and it's like $10, $13, 20, $50, whatever it is, and your neighbors are paying 400, putting that power bill online in social media and sharing that with people, they're going to be jealous. They're going to ask questions, is natural. How did you get your power bill down so much? So just a couple little tips and tricks there on how to drum up some more referrals. That way you're not having to call up people and say, hey, how interested are you in solar? Instead, you can let them come naturally to you if you're one of those people that's on social media. So just on that. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this big, beautiful, crazy Illinois bill. It has had a lot of kickback from the Republican side. It has not been greatly received. But there are some good thoughts about it. There are some good reasons why they're trying to do this.
I was gonna say, like with everything, there's going to be positives and negatives. And so again, guys, this is not meant to be a hyper, political thing by any means. This is more so educational, informative, and with everything going on in the world, we're really just trying to focus on the things that are important to us and what is changing in our industry. And doesn't matter where you're leaning on anything. Unfortunately, the power bill is still going to come and hit your door every day. So that is, power bill is not political. That's
nonpartisan.
yeah, exactly.
You have
And so I always, the way that I looked at this is, and I've always expressed is, I'm low enough on the totem pole that, I don't get to make these executive decisions. I just get to make sure I'm as informed and I can roll with the punches as well as possible. And, that's at the end of the day what we're here to do. And so, with the bill that's, been passed, I mean, again, big changes. There's a lot of money that's going to be going into funding. Again, we talked about on the prior episode with the grid improvements that we're relaying. And then again, more so specifically, I guess, what we're looking at changing or what it's going to change personally on our bill. And I'm glad that we had our meeting earlier today and talking with some of the other reps and just kind of we've all been digging into it a little bit. And one of the things that kind of came to notion, or at least bring up to our attention, was that just because this bill passed, it doesn't necessarily mean we're all going to wake up tomorrow and it's going to be an overnight effect. And so there's going to be growing pains with a lot of bills that are passed, and so we'll see those increases trickle in very slowly and steadily for sure. But the actual benefits of this, we might not be seeing anything in terms of where we're actually reciprocating or
Savings.
correct, until, might be 4 or 5 years down the road. And so again, that's with speculation, but it's also just to say that, hey, I just because something's being passed now does not necessarily, again, like I said, I don't want people to have that perception that it happens necessarily overnight. The legislation can go into effect overnight,
Right.
but just again, the long-term effects may just it takes time for these things to ramp up. And so again, I think everyone's bill has been kind of a, reflection of that, yes, there's major rate increases that can happen pretty I would say drastically, but the whole idea is that if you zoom out on the graph, unfortunately, it's just a constant increase over time. And so it's the slow and steady does, win the race in terms of the power companies increasing the rates there. But so that's just something to, take into mind here as we're talking about the bill and what the implications are, just long-term effect, we're might be 4 or 5 years down the road until we start getting or start receiving true benefit from it ourselves.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's looking about like 2031 that where actually you get a reduction on your bill. And the reason why, and we talked about this in a previous episode, the whole concept of going 100% renewable, having these solar fields, wind turbines, power facilities, even if we stick with nuclear, it doesn't really matter. The idea is that if once we get it done, the bill should drop dramatically. But that's a 25-year, 30-year plan. Same thing with this. Like it's a $8 billion rate increase to eventually get to 2031 to where we can drop down the rates and get some relief. Because the idea is reliability. So you're building these massive battery storage facilities, and then that's going to then store the power and then put it back into the grid. And there's also some line updates and some other nuance changes and also some gas stuff that's in there. But at the end of the day, that's the goal, is that we do this now, we bite the bullet now, and then in the future we can have the savings. But the only thing that's going to affect everyone else is you're still going to see your rate go up. And even that relief you get in 2031, that could very well be a lot less than what you think it would be. So let's say their power rates go up by 50% or 60% in the next 5 years, which is on the low side from what we've seen. But at the end of the day, if the relief you're getting is 20%, then you're only getting 20% of a 60% increase. So really your bill still went up by 40%. And that's what we're seeing across the board. And I think the national average for power just went up. So it was 3% for years and years and years, and now it's just jumped up to 5%. That's a huge increase.
I was going to say, when you're talking about on a on a mass scale there, and that's all going through that article that we were reading, it was, I mean, that's 2% is 2%, especially when you're taking that on a U.S. scale. But
330 million people, 2% of their power bill goes up. Like that's a crap ton of money.
correct. And so again, that's just where we're at currently. But again, if it just doesn't, all the writing on the wall. And again, I don't know how many times we're beating a dead horse of saying beating a dead horse, but again, guys, it's not unifactor here. This is a multi-factor. You've got the data centers, consumption. People are just naturally finding more things to plug in. Everyone's having or converting to like the electric vehicles are now a huge progression, and so everyone is in this technology race, and unfortunately there's no end in sight, and the infrastructure change has to come from somewhere, and it's either we're going to fall behind and not be able to support all the demand on the grid, or we're simply just going to be paying exponentially more. And so you don't have to take an economics class to understand how that's naturally going to play out for the average consumer. And the power companies are you know they're transparent enough to say that they have themselves covered, I would say, because we get these little snippets that they'll put out in black and white for us to say, hey, this is going to happen. But even a couple years ago, I feel like it was almost 2 years ago now at this point, that they started talking about the potential of the brownouts in the future and whatnot. And so it's most people, when they get their Ameren bill, they look at it, they look at the number in the top right corner, and they're upset, they pay it, and then they throw it away or don't want to think about it for another 30 days. I can't tell you how many people typically don't you know, go through all the nitty gritty of the black and white of what Ameren sends out. Because again, unless it's a bill, most people don't think it necessarily is something that's relevant or needs to be addressed at that point in time. And so it's just the writing on the wall. It's going to keep creeping towards it. This legislation is just, I feel like, one more, I don't know, needle in the haystack.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a means to an end, right? And I think you had some very good points there, and you're right. The average consumer. So I think as people, we just want our power to be the same as it always has been. We're just looking at our home. We're looking at what we're using. Like, okay, I'm using the same amount of power. Why am I paying more? But you have to look outward. You have to look and see what the whole state is doing. With these AI data centers, electric vehicles, all this increase in consumption, and then also in the midst of the biggest increase in consumption that we've ever seen as a country, we're also using or we're getting, excuse me, we're using more power than we ever have before. And now we're trying to also update the grid at the same time. We're trying to make all these massive changes. And we have, like, at the end of the day, whatever side of the party you're on, it doesn't matter because it's it's either over here or over here. Because it's do we turn all the coal plants back on and then build new coal plants? That's still going to cost you money.
Right.
We're going to put new nuclear stations. That's still going to cost you money.
Power has no opinions. It doesn't.
There's no way. It doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. We're in this now. Like,
Right.
this is where we are as not only a state but a country. You know, there's talk about power rates getting up to like 45% or 45 cents per kilowatt hour.
Right. And what we're scared of, the West Coast has already been enduring. And so, you really want to talk about it as if though it's like a fear. It's already a reality for some people. And so, again, what we're staring down the barrel of shouldn't, if anyone's ever moved here from California, then you should know what I'm talking about. PG&E is the major power company out there, as you have Ameren for us here locally. But the same electricity, if you were to pick up your house, and if your average power bill's, been, let's say anywhere between $250 to $450 over the last year or so, if you were to pick up your home and move it over to the West Coast, your $300 average month power bill just became $900 overnight. And that's simply just because the same amount of power that you're using is being charged 3 times as much. And so it's, again, where our power rates are going, it's not as if though it's unfathomable because our fellow citizens on the other side of the coast here are still paying it currently. And so obviously, again, it's multifactored. It's not just like a one point casual or causality that leads to that, but it's just, again, it's, you look at our legislation and what we're currently enveloping, and this isn't, this just now passed, and so this is just one more factor now that we get to embrace. And whenever people open up their bill in another 2 years and wonder, damn, what happened to I wore my comma shirt, it's underneath here. But so again, the whole idea with it, guys, again, like I said, I feel like, and before we even started the podcast, I just to kind of let you know what we're talking about beforehand and afterhand is, in a moment of reflection, and, we're in 23 episodes deep, guys. And I kind of made a joke saying, I feel like we're just creatively always trying to find and update ways to say like, hey,
The same thing.
the same thing in terms of what's going on. And, there's a repetitive nature to it, but also I guess whenever we're able to consistently find this much information, or that week after week, or, month after month, there's a vicious cycle here of, it's taking this information, interpreting it, and being up to date with it. But unfortunately, if enough arrows continuously point to the same end result, or the finish line that we're all going to cross is kind of, similar based off the writing on the wall, I don't know. It's just very interesting to take into consideration. And again, I think that our listeners that have been here with us, at least through episodes, have kind of gotten the main points that we're trying to, express here. But again, it is from a, just an educational standpoint, but just again, from a moment of reflection, I was like, I do feel like for, I don't know how long we've been doing this now, a year and a half, something of that nature, maybe give or take, but the value and the information is always there. But just being able to know, hey, what does this all actually mean in the long run? What does this legislation mean for us? It's one thing to hear about on the news and hear all the hustle and bustle about it, but to really break it down and go, how is this going to affect me? What does this trickle down effect actually mean? And so, that is where it is. Now, again, it's cool to know that we'll actually get credits on the delivery side of your bill right now.
We haven't even talked about that yet. So
Oh,
yeah,
fair enough.
yeah. But real quick, I love what you said there. So talking about how we go over, this is our 23rd episode. We go over all this information for people, but most of the time it's new information. And you're right. If all of these arrows are pointing towards you either having a higher bill or pointing towards you needing to go solar, it might be time to take a look at something, right? And at the end of the day, like, you're going solar whether you like it or not. Now, you might not own it yourself. You might get trapped into a lease, or you might pay the power company to put solar up for the entire state. But right now, as it stands, by 2050, we are going 100% renewable.
And I'd like to clarify what Will said there too, because again, I do think that yes, solar is an inevitability for many people. The leasing side of things, again, we say trapped into a lease because a lease is not something that we offer. Again, that's something that we've touched on prior episodes, so please dig deeper into that. But the lease versus PPA versus ownership, our company exclusively offers the ownership or route on things. And again, if you own your home, you own your car, you own every other aspect of your life, it's not a hard conversation to explain why owning your electricity makes the most sense in the long run. So again, just for point of clarification there, I don't want to make it seem like we're going to scare people or get trapped
Right.
into that demographic of, sales. But again, we've done entire episodes covering and digging deeper into, the differences there. But again, just from a value perspective, again, everyone should be considering going solar. It is kind of a route that, some people feel, they're being forced into it one way versus another. But at the end of the day, again, I do say, the totem pole expression, because we're low enough on the totem pole that we can only control so much, but being able to take that independence at the end of the day is something that we still offer. And so again, didn't mean to like cut off there or derive too much, but I do think that that's just a huge thing, that whenever people are hearing about, getting trapped into something, there's a reason why we have the process that we do. And it's so that not a single one of our customers is ever going to feel like they've been trapped into a lease or a system that, doesn't abide by or meet what their needs are. Or if they try and move out, that they're now caught in a nightmare of a web of a process.
Yeah, and you're right. We can only control what we can control,
Right.
like our install process, our customer service, our going above and beyond. And at the end of the day, we might look like a perfect company on paper, but we're far from it. We make mistakes all the time, and we do our best to rectify those. Like there are some customers that we have out there that did not enjoy their process, and that's completely understandable. Things go wrong, but it's how we choose to fix those and how we stand up and say something or do something about it, which is the most important thing to us. But yeah, there is some good news in this bill for people that have solar without net metering. So, um, as most of you already know, net metering ended at the beginning of last year. It was very tragic for the industry and Illinois as a whole, but it was designed to be as such. It was designed to go away that year. There was nothing to do about it. It was designed to be that way, and that's fine. But now with the delivery, so as you probably know as well, or maybe you're just looking at the right-hand corner and paying that bill, but on your power bill, you have your delivery and your supply and your taxes and fees. That supply side, you can still get net metering and it rolls over indefinitely, meaning a one-to-one credit. Any power you send back, you get that power gained as a credit. So on the delivery side, part of this bill is actually giving some benefit to people. So we don't know what that is yet, but we know that there's going to be some price point that you're getting paid to send power back to the grid. Now, Austin, is that going to be like it's going to be beneficial, but is it going to be a one-to-one?
Correct. And so this is again, however much you want to sugarcoat something is going to come out to how sweet it tastes to someone. You know what I mean? And
That's a good
so
expression.
I like that. Just thought of that. So yeah, I told you I work well under pressure, man. But so the whole idea with this is that again, they're giving, but there's always going to be a little bit of take. You're not getting, again, all in speculation, but Lord knows that if they get, they're not going to give us a full 1-to-1 by any
Yeah.
means. You're going to get a partial credit. Any of the co-op companies around us, that's not Ameren, it's like Corn Belt, Spoon River, anyone that falls under those jurisdictions, they offer something kind of similar to where instead of a 1-to-1 credit, you get, pennies on the dollar. And so it's their way of saying, hey, yes, we'll give you something, but it's definitely, I don't want to explain it like a smack in the face sometimes, but it is, it's not typically a whole lot.
Better than what we've had the last year.
Correct. And so I would always rather have something than nothing. But again, we'll kind of, obviously, as this envelops more, we'll have more understanding on the actual hard numbers. But the idea is that there's light at the end of the tunnel to know that you can still get more value out of what we currently do. And again, I don't think there's anyone that's in opposition to getting more value out of their system in the long run than not. But we'll have to kind of play it by ear and see what they actually, release to us.
Yeah. And on the co-op side, part of the bill is to hold co-ops more accountable to the solar wave or the solar goal, right? So that is going to be a huge benefit for us. Again, we have to figure out exactly what that's going to look like. But the idea of co-ops having to play the same ball game as Ameren and ComEd, I mean, that would be
Game
it
changer.
would be a game changer for people. Austin, tell the story of the customer you got right now because I
Yeah.
think it's important for
I was going
everybody
to
to
say,
hear.
so if they're listening, I've got some customers out in Spoon River, and they've been an absolute gem to work with. So, guys, if you're listening, thank you so much. Well, obviously, we're very much so looking forward to making your system happen one way or another. But their utility company that they currently, I don't know if I'm allowed to like throw their current utility company under the bus too hard
Yeah,
here.
go ahead, just state the facts. I mean,
Yeah. So they're using Spoon River, yeah, exactly, as opposed to Ameren. And so for the size of the system that they'd be needing, for the amount of power that they're using, which again they do use a substantial amount of power, but they're all electric at their house, geothermal. I mean, it's quite the setup. But the way that their system works and would operate, they don't get a credit the same way that Ameren provides, and so they would get, I think it's like 3 to 4 cents or something like that per extra kilowatt that they produce, which they'd be able to apply towards certain portions of their bill. But at the end of the day, the smallest that their bill could ever be with Spoon River is still about 100 to maybe $120 because of all the extra fees and add-ons. And on top of that, Spoon River doesn't necessarily have any of the incentives on top of that. And so for their system, Ameren for the Illinois rebate and then the battery, I'm sorry, the Ameren rebate and then the battery rebate that Ameren offers, it was over $16,000 that they'd be getting if they had Ameren for their power company and through the rebates versus what co-op their Spoon River is not giving them at all.
And the buyback, right? The supply.
Correct. The buyback rate. So Ameren is again allowing you to have credits on the supply side and now potentially the delivery moving forward as well, which is huge on top of the incentives that they're already giving you, as opposed to not giving, the buyback rate versus zero incentives at all. And so, Ameren is selling quite literally on the other side of the street from them. It's a hop and a skip away. And now they're, not even, half a mile, a quarter mile away looking at their neighbor's home going, you guys have a completely different potential for the next 30 to 40 years of independence. And so again, it's never to paint, anyone in a negative light, but it is just to, again, just lay the facts out there. And so they've been contacting their power company and just, really trying to work with emotions and seeing what they can have out there. But again, that's never to tell people to be disheartening, but it's also, knowledge is power. And if you know that the people right across the street are using a different power company and are going to get damn near an extra $20,000 in incentives, that's enough to, make you scratch your head and go, okay, what can I do here? And so it's very, I would say, remediating to know that the legislation is trying to work with co-ops or kind of strong arm co-ops into being a little bit more user friendly, because that's really one of our biggest, I will easily say that one of our like biggest obstacles that we've had is, Ameren has had phenomenal incentives, and obviously, we've had great, success with them. Our turnover rate and success rate with our systems getting turned on is phenomenal. But co-ops are always a little bit more, I don't want to say nitpicky, but they're just less residential, like user friendly. Like they have, and we've seen that with any direction that we go in. As soon as we get out of Ameren territory, the benefit of solar doesn't change wherever you go. The sun still comes up, people still have high power bills, but the utility company that you're working with can definitely, unfortunately have way more dictatorship over how you're able to operate than you would think. And so, I don't want to say we're spoiled here in Ameren, but as soon as you go far enough out and you get out of our jurisdiction, you don't really realize how other people can get screwed over this and don't really have the same options that we do.
Yeah,
So
for our Bloomington listeners, you've probably seen it. Like there's Corn Belt and Ameren, and it's all over Bloomington. It's kind of hit or miss. You have to look at a map, but you can tell by the neighborhoods. Like the Corn Belt neighborhoods are not scattered with solar all over them, and then the Ameren neighborhoods are. So it's like
it speaks for itself.
it's just a neighborhood away. And that's typically how it's set up. It's like the whole north side of Bloomington is all Corn Belt, and there's not much solar in there.
Right.
And it's like the return on investment, the benefit, it can get dicey. But now, hopefully, again, it's all speculation, but that is the intention, is to hold them accountable. We'll see. It's the state of Illinois. Everything with a grain of salt. But again, we update you. All these arrows point towards you.
Correct. And so again, like I said, guys, this is just, rolling with the punches, but just to know that, there is ideally the grass can be greener on the other side, but it's just, using whatever information we have to our knowledge and using it as wisely as possible.
Absolutely. So let's talk about the big bad wolf. How about that? We can talk about the tax credit going away. Wow, everybody's so scared. And you know what? I'm actually excited. After some conversations with some other people and other leaders in the industry, I'm excited. It's going to really differentiate the good companies and the bad companies.
I was just going to say, guys, it's going to be okay. It's really as simple as I can put it. It's going to be okay. Don't let people fear monger or make it seem like because a incentive that went away, it's going away. Now, would it be nicer if it was here? Absolutely. But that's okay. Sometimes you're dealt a good hand. Sometimes you're dealt mediocre. But at the end of the day, guess what? Power rates are still going up. And so there's always a solution to it. It's way easier to focus it and frame it as a positive in the grand scheme of things because I, again, with speculation, there's things that can kind of compensate. Ideally, if our state incentive is able to counterbalance it all, we might have a little bit more optimism in that as we get closer towards midway through the year. But it is set up in order to, kind of be a buffer as the incentives come and go. And so, again, nothing is set in stone until something gets signed. But there is, I don't know, there with everything that we've seen over the last couple of months, and guys, all of October, November, December, it wasn't even something that we had factored in. And truly being in someone's home and really breaking down, hey, this is what you're spending versus this is what it would cost without the tax credit. Guys, 3 out of the 4 incentives are still guarantees. There's still a state incentive. There's still 2 Ameren rebates. If you have businesses, there's other incentives that we can look through as well.
And
So
you still get the tax credit on commercial.
correct. So again, tax credit being available for commercial is huge. But again, so for what it's worth, a it's really easy to dwell on one negative whenever there's far more positives that are still sitting there. And again, that's just human nature. It's really easy to, kind of nitpick and be like, oh, I can't believe they're taking this away. Great. Let's accept it, swallow the pill, move on. But guess what? If you focus on the positive, take the action, you're still going to have an amazing amount of savings over the next 20, 30, 40 years, the longevity of the system. And that's the reality of it. You could take away 2 more incentives, and guess what? Solar would still make more sense over a grand scheme of time.
It has
So
to. I mean, the simplified version of what we do here is you pay a monthly payment indefinitely or whenever you want to pay it off. So 25 years is usually the monthly payment. We have different, loan terms, but that stays stagnant. It stays where it's at. Go back 25 years ago and look at the price of anything. It was so much cheaper then. Go back 5 years ago and it was
it's
cheaper. Like
sad whenever I think of 25 years ago, I'm like, oh, the 80s, or like, like heck,
the
dude,
80
straight 2001,
2000.
2001. Oh my gosh.
Everything was cheaper. I mean, I just blows my mind when I go into a gas station now and buy a bottle of water. It's $4 or $5. She's like, when did this happen? Right? Like,
Right.
why? And so you're locking in a rate. We can't help you on the inflation on every other side of things, but we can help you with this. We know power rates are going to go up. When's the last time you had 2 years that your power bill went down? Never really happened, right? That's because labor gets more expensive, cost of materials get more expensive, everything gets more expensive.
Tariffs.
Yeah, tariffs, everything that we're dealing with right now. So, like, there's no feasible, like, that's a definite in our head. This is no speculation. Power will go up. It will go up and it will continue to go up. The one thing we can promise you is we were going to build a system. You have a fixed price, you're paying for it, you own it, you get all the incentives. And at the end of the day, whenever you paid off, you're good to go. Like, it's not going to do all your power. You're not separated from the grid per se, but you have a massive benefit and it adds value to your house. Like, that's as simple as it can be. And it
Sure.
makes a shit ton of sense.
For anyone that watches, like stock markets, or like, unfortunately, you guys missed the mark on silver that already quadrupled in price. So
My
it's too late
brother
for you,
did.
but
My brother had never missed that. He's been collecting silver
so
for like 7 years.
little shout out to Will's brother because he's been stockpiling some smart. So again, a little too late to get on the solar train, or I'm sorry, the silver train. But solar again is always going to make a little joke there. Obviously, you can still invest in solar, get your precious metals. But for what it's worth, again, just looking at it year after year, guys, I can't tell you. First off, the amount of customers that I've ever had called me and said, "Hey, we regret having a much smaller bill," or hates it. Zero, as opposed to the amount of people that I've had call me and say, "Hey, we didn't do this 2 years ago, and I think we're ready to look into this again," or we're tired of seeing our bills. That the guys last year, it was a clear indicator of that. I can't tell you. I mean, it was a record amount of times that I've had people that have lived in their house for 8, 10, 15 years and said, "We've lived here this over a decade, and we've never had a power bill over 450, over $500."
Everybody has a threshold.
And that's, unfortunately, I hate that we're just, that's a great way of putting it. It's, everyone's got a breaking point. It's not to say that people can't afford their bill, but $20 is, or, $100 is the new $20 now, is kind of how I feel about it. And so,
Dude, that's so true.
but we throw around $100 like it's 20 bucks anymore
Yeah,
nowadays. And like
absolutely.
it's dinner now, lunch. I mean, to take my mom out to lunch, we literally went out to lunch the other day. It was $98, and that was like,
It's like every time I go out to eat is $100, and
it's
it's we're not even getting appetizers or anything. It's like a couple of drinks, food, done.
Yep, and so just what our standard is now, and what we grow up thinking is normal in terms of money, sure, but again, at some point, I think people are, and most people I think are on this page, which is refreshing. But there is a point where you take a step back and go, "This is ridiculous." And again, it's all about perspective. I was just talking about our friends on the West Coast paying 3 times as much as what we're paying here, but that's also why there might be a mass exodus of people moving out of a state. Is when you have a power bill higher than your mortgage, it's just not feasible for living. And so that's just one factor. But then you've got kids, food, school, just all these things that go on top of it. And so it's just really making your dollar go as far as it can go. And that's, again, guys, I look at it as a very safe investment in regards that I think I've probably said it in almost every episode that I can remember now, but the sun is quite literally the most reliable source of energy known to mankind. I don't say that, to be a smart aleck, but it shows up to work every day, and it will be here long after, you and I, my friend, are not here. And
It's
so
true.
that's, what promise I can make to you, out of all the uncertainty in this industry, it is, all of the finite fuels and things that we have here that are, only there's a limitation to the resourcefulness. The sun is not going anywhere, and so I guess it seems silly to think about conceptually, but then whenever you just, in its most basic principle, it feels silly to not take advantage of, given the opportunity. And the houses that can't do it, we'll gladly tell you. Sometimes we'll recommend a chainsaw or something to take down some trees, and then there's a solution. But if your house physically isn't a good fit for it, which some aren't, that's okay as well. That's not, that's just part of the conversation. Not every house was built 40 years ago with the idea of having solar in mind,
Right.
but a lot of the houses that are a good fit for it, again, guys, the numbers do speak for themselves. Whenever it's a no-brainer, the conclusion's always organic. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about this is people that have lived in their homes long enough, they appreciate the value of a dollar. They understand what it means. And everyone that I talk to can think of 20 things off the top of their head, and I literally mean 20 things off the top of their head that they would rather have their money going towards that's not the power company, and so it's not a hard concept to grasp, but again, guys, it does start with somewhere again, and so just to really, like, recap on that, the tax credit going away, yes, it is a factor. It is something that, it's no longer here unless you have a business or, there's
Farm.
farm, please. Oh my gosh, guys, I know we're in the slow season for
We love our
farmers.
farmers.
Farmers, farmers. Oh my gosh. If you don't have solar yet, please allow us just to show you between the tax credit, both of the incentives through Ameren, the state incentive, being able to depreciate the system. It does not matter how much power you're using. I hope you're using a ton because the bigger the system, the more fun the numbers are. But guys, I do not want this to fall on deaf ears. If you know a farmer, please take advantage of that
Or
freaking incentive that we're throwing out right now. But guys, it's just for what it's worth. There's a reason that whenever you're driving by a lot of these farmlands, that you see these big ground mounts out at this point. You're not putting money towards a rent anymore. You're now being able to take that money and put it towards an asset on your business.
depreciation, tax, like all the things. The return on investment for farmers and businesses is crazy. And also the return on investment for people is crazy.
Correct. And so just again to finalize that, guys, there's no, all doom and gloom here with the tax credit going away for residential. Again, there are more incentives available than that have gone away. So it's always going to be about how you would like to look at it. But again, just on the macrocosm of the whole situation, the rates aren't going down enough for anyone to justify not at least being open-minded to solar. And again, it doesn't have to be, a slam dunk. It can still definitely, it's an investment. All things are an investment, especially at this point. But I would much rather you get something out of your investment as opposed to, I always ask people like, hey, whenever you sell your house in 8, 9, 10 years, 12 years, what does Ameren give you? A crisp high five. And oh, by the way, you still owe us $80 from the last bill. That's that's about it. And so again, just the idea of it's not hard to, go, hey, I'd rather put my money into something that I can see that's tangible and also that, just having the independence of not having to worry about a power bill or a power rate increase coming down the pipeline. Like, oh, hey, there's another 40%. Glad we can't do anything about it. And that, not to circumstantially throw some people under the bus, but like people that can't go solar, that's just the hand that they're dealt. They can't do anything about it. And, anytime the power company wants to increase their rates, they're just at the mercy of their beholder there. And so that's, guys, I mean, the whole idea is independence, peace of mind. Panels are one aspect, but that's what the battery's there for as well. And so again, last time I'm going to say it, but for the one incentive going away, all the other incentives that are still available far outweigh the, worth looking into. So please.
I want to touch on need versus want for a second because it just popped in my head. You know, we're getting a lot of people now who need solar to some degree. The people that are calling us up, like they're struggling with their power bill, like that, they've hit that threshold.
Mm.
5 years ago, 7 years ago, when we first started up, no one really needed solar.
It was a luxury.
It was a want. Like, hey, yeah, these incentives sound great. I trust you as a company. I like you as a person. I'll take a gamble. I'll go solar. Those people that wanted solar and did solar 7 years ago, their return on investment's already been done.
Mm.
Like they got a quick return on investment, like 2, 3, 4 years, whatever. They're already saving money and they have net metering. They're locked into all these programs. So please, if you're out there listening, don't wait until you need solar. Like, just be curious, right? We're not pushy, we're not high pressure people. So it's like we go in the house, we'll talk to you, see what power you want to run, if you want a battery, if you don't, what the system size, what's like what you're gonna be adding on, if the house is getting smaller, bigger. We take all that into account when we consult with you. And it is like an hour and a half consultation, sometimes 2 hours, but at least you get all the facts. So don't wait till you need it. And you're just like, all right, I'll sign on the dotted line and like not listening to any of the information that we're telling you. Instead, just be curious, go out there, it is a potential very good thing for you, but you may or may not qualify. So
You're not going to hurt our feelings. Trust us. And just allow us to come out and talk to you. I know we sound scary. We look big and intimidating on camera, but I promise we're
is that what we look like on camera? I think we look big on camera.
jacked for sure. But guys, I mean, at the end of the day, we're a local company. We are just, it's my hometown from Peoria, and so odds of me knowing you or knowing someone that knows you is small enough or high enough that again, it's as simple as having a conversation, but really being able to break down what your needs are, what your home is looking to do in the future, and just what kind of peace of mind would we be able to provide for you. And then on top of that, if it starts making you money in the meantime, no one's really too upset with it. And so, guys, it's a very cool conversation to have. I think a lot of people are had the wrong company or just been burned by a lot of, untrustworthy sources. And that's really a huge thing right now is again, the internet unfortunately isn't slowing down or getting any smaller. And so just the amount of misinformation out there, it's it's impossible to get in front of half the time. And so really one of the biggest things that I can always say too, and shout out to all the other companies that are doing a really lackluster job and all the people that have, come our way just because they wanted a second opinion on things. But I can't stress that enough. And I the amount of times I've sat down with homeowners and, gotten to learn what they've been told versus, the reality of the situation. it you know, I'm very thankful for the amount of people that I've been able to make sure that, they've now earned or we've earned their business to make sure that they're in the best hands possible. But then it also makes me, kind of weep on the inside a little bit for all the people that we haven't been able to help. And that's going to be a lot of phone calls down the road that we're gonna, we're helping them one way or the other, whether it's installing and then servicing or servicing only down the road. It's going to be inevitable. But I do like that we're a standpoint here on that. But again, it's just, worth the conversation, guys. At the end of the day, the worst thing that we could tell you is this is not a good fit, but that's still worth the conversation no matter what.
Yeah. You were reading an article right before we got onto the podcast. You want to reiterate that? Because there was some expectations on what this year was going to be and the decrease in solar added because of the Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah, and so there was a speculation that there was almost like a decrease. It was almost expecting like between 50 to 55% because of the tax credit going away. And then after revamping and like prying a little bit deeper, it was reduced down to like 20 to 25% is where they're expecting it.
Right.
And so, with all things, I mean, again, it would mathematically make sense if you take 30% out of the equation that,
In some territories, some states and stuff, the power rates are so low and like whatever.
correct.
Like
So
that makes sense that solar wouldn't be sold there as much.
correct. And so again, everything's with ebb and flow, but I do think that naturally, you know, just had a giant bill that just passed, and this isn't, we're just now at the beginning of 2026. We already know that Ameren's going to have rate increases. There should be one. I don't think we're too far away from one.
They passed that 60,000 or $60 million increase from last year. So yeah, we're just gonna be looking down the barrel of that.
And then there should be one, I think, later on, midway through this year. And so, you know, time just kind of keeps ticking, and the whole idea is don't just get caught up in, I would say the media or the opinions of people that don't. And I mean, obviously, again, we're just two guys with opinions as well, but that's also like we eat, drink, and breathe this day after day, week after week, year after year. And so, but the whole idea is that you're getting it from multiple sources. You're kind of creating your own opinions on this, but also just to know that that was a 30% drop in speculation, just like that. Guys, solar's not going anywhere. The whole point of the article was to express that the longevity of solar, it doesn't matter that the 30% tax credit's going away with the increase in rates. And the best time to go solar was always 20 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago. That's not changed since the induction of this industry. But for what it's worth, again, that's the first step is always going to be the hardest, I would say, is just, making the call, and again, that just for people to understand what we do and to put a kind of cap in that process, we make custom tailored designs for homes. The whole point of you calling us is that I would make a design for your house, look at how much you consume in power, build a tailored design that shows exactly how many panels would be a good fit. The batteries, that's a whole other conversation in terms of what kind of backup you'd like to do. But that's the whole idea, is that we make a custom tailored design for your home that it suits your needs and the longevity of what you guys would like to have. And so that, again, it's, I wish it was cookie cutter to where I could just send an email out to every person I know and say, here's your system, click here if you'd like it. But it's a little bit more than that. But that's also why we are the way that we are. We put a personal touch on things, and a firm handshake is the only way to do that to us or for us. And so it's just kind of cool to know, like, hey, even the naysayers or the people that have had some skepticism against the industry are able to take a step back and go, there's enough, even with this one thing going away, there's still so much more that's going to make solar prosper in the long run. And that's, I do like the inevitability of that. They can, like I said, they could take in as many incentives as they weigh. It's not going to make my job any easier, but it's still going to make the long haul worth it. And so I will said it, I've said it, but I need you guys to hear it is, if you're open-minded, all it takes is a call.
All it does is yeah,
Best part is too, we leave the design with you guys after we're done. That's kind of the fun part, is you guys can chew on it, see if it makes sense. But for what it's worth, whenever people see it, it's such an organic thing that it doesn't really take that long. But this is the best time of the year for people to, really look into it, because with our timelines, again, everyone knows that if you look out your window, it's not necessarily the sunniest part of the year. So the whole idea is that if everything makes sense, we get you guys rocking and rolling. This is something that you guys can have locked and loaded before we get our massive our summertime production. So if you can have it up and going by midway through spring, end of spring, that's a full 9 months of full production you get on the back end of the year. And so never a bad time to get installed, but as per always, there's a more optimal time by all means.
absolutely. And so on that note, turning into a new year, if you know anybody out there who is, 18 to 25 young adults who are looking for a position to better themselves, we do a lot of community involvement. As most of you already know, we're at damn near every fundraiser in Peoria.
Sporting events.
Sporting events, working on your communication abilities, overcoming rejection. And it really is a wonderful position. I quit engineering to be doing this job. Austin quit serving to be doing this job. Like we have people from all walks of life in our office, and our team is growing. and we would love to have more people involved. You know, we are a community-based and community-first organization, so we'd love to have you out here if you're looking for a position and you have you're self-motivated and you got a good work ethic. Like, that's all we need. And a personality. Austin always says we can't teach you to have a personality, so personality is nice too. But it is a good position. It's a fun
I was going to say, any walk of life is truly the easiest way of putting it. I mean, again, Will caught me while I was serving, but I do have a Bradley degree sitting on my dresser that I look at every day going, that's cool. But the whole idea is, guys, that there's no, background that you can have that disqualifies you from this position. And that's really the biggest thing, is that if you have a little bit of creativity, you can work and you've got some grit to you. I mean, that's a little bit of like a little dash of everything goes a long way, but it's truly a fun position. And I do mean that wholeheartedly. I've had jobs that, I wouldn't, wish upon my worst enemies in terms of the labor and just how intensive they were. And this is something that, takes all the best parts of you, sharpens them. And, you got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and, better yourself. But at the same point in time, if there's so much appeal to that. And for people that have a little bit of self-determination that, please come check out our office. I think most people, as soon as they walk in, they're like, holy cow, this is a pretty sweet place. And it definitely gives a good reflection of what our company is like. But please, again, if
all
you're
local art, local art, local art, local art. Like everything you see here is locally sourced. It's a big thing with us.
and so again, just the whole, I mean, premise with everything, whether you're looking to solar career opportunities, but just being open-minded, guys. I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, not everything has to be for everyone. This isn't something that I'll be vulnerable with, our listeners for a second. Will handed me a business card 5 years ago while I was serving tables. I didn't know jack squat about, what this industry could necessarily entertain. I knew the panels went up on roofs, if you would ask me about solar, but other than that, but it was very easy to submerge myself into it. I've gotten to travel the world now and, coast to coast and learning about this industry. And so I do, appreciate the opportunities with it. But again, so if anyone's out there is listening and going, man, trying to think of what I want to do for, my summer job or, my spring job, or just trying to, I'm home for the summer, I'm going to be home, this, or anyone that's listening that's got grandkids or kids that are like, hey, this is a cool career opportunity, or this would be a good local company to check out, please send them our way.
Absolutely. Well, I think that pretty much does it for our 23rd episode of the Solar Power Hour. And if you like what you heard, please share it with somebody else. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that YouTubers always say.
No, more importantly, guys, look at your Ameren bill, be tired of it, give us a call. We'll take care of it. More importantly, remember that referral bonus that we've got going on for the next 30 days.
$1,500 from Austin right here. Crazy, man. Well, 750 from you.
I was gonna say, I was like, damn, we just upped it again. $1,500 total. Will and I are splitting that 750 coming straight to you. But the whole idea is that there's no cap on that. But if you send us some people that we have the pleasure of, helping them move forward with solar, there's no limit to the amount of checks that we're going to drop off. And again, just to clarify on that stipulation, just send us some people, let us talk to them. But anyone that signs up, again, that will be a $1,500 check hand delivered to you. We can mail it, I guess, if you don't like us, but we'd prefer to hand it off to you. But guys, we will cap it off there. Thank you for tuning into the 23rd episode. We look forward to a phenomenal 2026 with all of you and many more yet to come. So thank you.
See ya.